must have been love, but it's over now.
Ever wonder what happened to the bands that rocked the 80s airwaves but vanished just as fast? Today, we're diving deep into the vault to revisit 20 gone groups of the 1980s that have slipped through the cracks of time. Let's jump right in. 20. The Jeff Healey Band.
Back of the roadhouse, we got some fun loose.
Ever heard of a blind guitarist who redefined blues rock with his unique style? Meet the Jeff Healey Band. This trio stormed the 80s scene, defying critics with hits like Angel Eyes and their signature sound. But where are they now? The Jeff Healey Band was led by guitarist Jeff Healey, who went blind from eye cancer at the age of 1 and played with his guitar laid across his lap. And his blues rock trio managed to defy critics and enjoy mainstream success in the 80s. Their hit song, Angel Eyes, helped drive the band's debut album, See the Light, to platinum status, and subsequent releases were well received by the band's loyal following. Healey continued to make music in various capacities until he lost his battle with cancer in 2008. The band made their first public appearance at the Bird's Nest, located upstairs at Chicago's Diner on Queen Street West in Toronto. They received a write-up in Toronto's Now magazine and soon were playing almost nightly in local clubs, such as Grossman's Tavern and the famed blues club Albert's Hall, where Jeff Healey was discovered by guitarists Stevie Ray Vaughan and Albert Collins. After being signed to Arista Records in 1988, the band released the album See the Light, which appeared on the RPM Top 100 chart in 1989. It featured the hit single Angel Eyes and the song Hideaway, which was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Rock Instrumental Performance. 19. Mary Jane Girls. Remember those funky ladies with attitude and style backed by the legend Rick James? Let's revisit the Mary Jane Girls and the hits that had everyone dancing in the 80s. But what happened to them? The Mary Jane Girls were hit-making machines in the 80s. Protégés of funk legend Rick James, the group's list of bangers includes In My House, All Night Long, Candyman, and a cover version of Walk Like a Man for the 1986 film A Fine Mess, starring Ted Danson and Howie Mandel. Joanne Jojo McDuffie was the lead singer, the others filling out the group's style and appearance. On the studio recordings, McDuffie was backed by session vocalists rather than the other Mary Jane Girls. The group released 2 albums in the 1980s and recorded a third, which was shelved for decades but finally released in 2014 as part of a larger Rick James retrospective. The group was inducted into the Rhythm and Blues Music Hall of Fame in 2019. 18. Yellow. Ever heard that iconic "Oh Yeah" from Ferris Bueller's Day Off? This Swiss duo was ahead of its time, but where are they now? This enigmatic Swiss dance music duo is considered to be a pioneering force in electronic music. After a couple successful singles that charted high on both sides of the pond in the 1980s, the band made a comeback in 2016. But they weren't able to match their 80s success, which was bolstered by the use of their single Oh Yeah in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Gold Rush 2, which you may also know if you're a fan of Netflix's 80s homage series Stranger Things. Yellow's sound is mainly characterized by unusual music samples, a heavy reliance on rhythm, and Dieter Meyer's dark voice. Yellow makes heavy use of sampling in the construction of rhythm tracks, such as in The Race from 1988. Boris Blank has taken a couple of vocal turns on Swing from You Gotta Say Yes to Another Excess and Blazing Saddles from Flag. Guest vocalists have included Rush Winters, Billy McKenzie, Stina Nordenstam, Jade Davies, Shirley Bassey, Heidi Happy, and Fifi Wrong. The group has shared writing credit with Mackenzie, Winters, and Happy. Yellow rarely uses samples from previously released music. Nearly every instrument has been sampled and re-engineered by Boris Blank, who over the years has built up an original sample library of thousands of named and categorized sounds. 17. Giles Band. What happens when a 70s rock band tries to stay relevant in the 80s by switching up their style? The Giles Band might be the perfect example. Ever heard Centerfold? Let's see where they are now. The Giles Band was an American rock band formed in 1967 in Worcester, Massachusetts under the leadership of guitarist John J. Giles. The original band members included vocalist Peter Wolf, harmonica and saxophone player Richard Magic Dick Salwitz, drummer Stephen Blad, vocalist keyboardist Seth Justman, and bassist Danny Klein. Wolf and Justman served as principal songwriters. The band played R&B influenced blues rock during the 1970s and soon achieved commercial success before moving toward a more mainstream radio-friendly sound in the early 1980s, which brought the band to its commercial peak. They performed a mix of cover songs of classic blues and R&B songs, along with the original compositions written under the pseudonymous name Juke Joint Jimmy, representing compositions credited to the entire band as a whole. After Wolf left the band in 1983 to pursue a solo career, the band released one more album in 1984 with Justman on lead vocals before breaking up in 1985. Beginning in 1999, the band had several reunions prior to the death of its namesake, Jay Giles, on April 11, 2017. 16. Fine Young Cannibals. When you think of Fine Young Cannibals, one song immediately comes to mind. But did you know this British band was more than just She Drives Me Crazy? Let's find out why they didn't last. Fine Young Cannibals are a soulful and exceptional British pop rock band from Birmingham, England. The group was formed in 1984 after the disintegration of the British ska revival outfit, The Beat. Bassist Andy Cox and guitarist David Steele recruited singer Roland Gift to form Fine Young Cannibals. More than 500 potential singers auditioned for the spot before Cox and Steele decided on Gift. The band's unusual name was inspired by the 1960 film All the Fine Young Cannibals. The group released their self-titled debut album in 1985. Fine Young Cannibals had 2 top 10 UK pop charts with the rousing Johnny Come Home and an excellent cover of Elvis Presley's Suspicious Minds. Both of these songs peaked at number 8. Fine Young Cannibals disbanded in 1992, although they briefly returned to the studio in 1996 to record a new single, The Flame, for the greatest hits compilation, The Finest. 15. Lips Inc. One-hit wonder or dance floor legend. Lips Inc. gave us Funky Town, and then they seemingly vanished. But was that really the end of their story? Lips Inc. was a late 70s studio group from Minneapolis, Minnesota. The band combined tasty elements of disco, R&B, and new wave music into a uniquely catchy, funky, and arresting sound. Lips Inc. was formed in 1979 by producer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist Steven Greenberg. Lips Inc. released their 4th and final album, 4, in 1983. The group stopped recording altogether in 1985. 14. Sheriff. How does a song climb to the top of the charts years after its original release? That's the story of Sheriff and their power ballad, When I'm With You. Let's see what happened next. These Canadian rockers are best known for their power ballad, When I'm With You, which hit number 1 on the Billboard charts in 1989, 6 years after its original release. The band was formed in 1979 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and consisted of vocalist Freddie Kirchie, guitarist Steve DeMarchi, keyboardist, rhythm guitarist Arnold Lanni, bassist Wolf Hassel, and drummer Rob Elliott. The band's only full-length release was a self-titled 1982 album that featured a Canadian top 40 hit, You Remind Me, as well as their most famous song, When I'm With You, which reached number 8 in Canada and number 61 in the United States in 1983. 5 years later, it was re-released and hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart in the US. The band split up in 1985, citing internal tensions. Lanni and Hassel went on to form Frozen Ghost and racked up several hits in Canada, the biggest of which was Should I See, which reached number 69 in the US. 13. Ready for the World. Ever confuse the song Oh Sheila with a Prince track? You're not alone. This Michigan band nailed the Prince vibe but couldn't sustain their success. Let's dig into what went wrong. A Michigan funk band with slight rock leanings, Ready for the World, parlayed Melvin Riley's whining vocals and some trendy production into a pair of number 1 R&B hits in the mid-80s for MCA. Riley, Gordon Strozier, Gregory Potts, Willie Triplett, John Eaton, and Gerald Valentine began on their own Blue Lake label before signing with MCA. The label reissued the song Tonight, and it reached number 6 on the R&B charts in 1984. They followed it with Deep Inside Your Love, another top 10 R&B single, then had their first of 2 chart toppers in Oh Sheila. It got them a huge crossover smash, ultimately topping the pop lists as well. They scored their 4th consecutive top 10 R&B record with Digital Display, then had 2 flop singles before Love You Down put them back on top of the R&B world in 1986. It was their last hit and peaked at number 9 pop. They channeled Prince so effectively that the song was often mistaken as being part of the larger-than-life legend's catalog instead. 12. Bow Wow Wow. Fronted by a teenage girl and backed by Malcolm McLaren's rebellious vision, Bow Wow Wow made waves in the 80s. But did their controversy outshine their music? The theatrical new wave of Bow Wow Wow came from the mind of provocative and controversial rock and roll renaissance man and former manager of the Sex Pistols, Malcolm McLaren, and the band managed to make tons of waves in the UK. Fronted by a young teenage girl and backed by Adam and the Ants, sans Adam, the group recorded 2 studio albums, was accompanied on stage by Boy George, and had a couple of top 10 hits on the UK charts before they stopped barking in 1983. The group had their biggest international smash with their ferociously catchy and trashy rendition of I Want Candy in May 1982. This particular song was originally done by the Strangeloves in 1965. I Want Candy peaked at number 7 on the UK pop charts. Although I Want Candy didn't do well on the US Billboard pop radio charts, it has nonetheless become a much beloved and popular 80s new wave rock favorite in the United States because the music video for the song was heavily played on MTV. Bow Wow Wow broke up in 1983. Matthew Ashman sadly died from diabetes complications at age 35 in 1995. Elwyn and Gorman reformed the band in 1997 and embarked on the Barking Mad reunion tour, which lasted from 1997 to 1998. Bow Wow Wow then split up again, but eventually got back together on September 20th, 2003 for the Inland Invasion show, and subsequently went on tour up until 2006. 11. The Waitresses. If you recognize this band, it's probably for a holiday song or a quirky sitcom. But the Waitresses were more than their hits. Let's explore what made them unique. You likely only know this grossly underrated Ohio new wave punk outfit for one of 2 reasons. You're a fan of the short-lived but much beloved Sarah Jessica Parker 80s sitcom Square Pegs, or you're an enthusiast of subversive Christmas music. That's not to say the Waitresses' au revoir does not warrant your attention otherwise. It does. But their two biggest claims to fame happen to be performing the theme for the aforementioned TV show and the 1981 indie holiday hit Christmas Wrapping, which was famously covered by the Spice Girls. The group was led by guitarist-songwriter Chris Butler with lead vocals performed by Patty Donahue. 1981 saw the band record its first and most successful album and its most enduring hit. The Waitresses split up later in 1983. 10. Vixen. Glam metal wasn't just a boys' club. Vixen proved that with hits like Edge of a Broken Heart. But why didn't this all-female band last longer? Let's dive in. This all-female metal band was born in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1980 when lead guitarist and founding member, the late Jan Kuhneman, was still in high school. After relocating to Los Angeles in the mid-80s, Vixen quickly made a name for themselves and scored a record deal with EMI. The band's debut album produced a couple of hits, Cryin' and Edge of a Broken Heart, but its follow-ups failed to keep the momentum going. Though the group soldiered on into the 90s, Vixen's brand of in-your-face rock and roll was one best enjoyed in the pre-flannel decade when they began. Part of the Los Angeles, California glam metal scene, the band has been described as the female Bon Jovi. While the band originally disbanded in 1992, it reformed from 1997 to 1998 by Gardner and Petrucci. But a lawsuit filed by Kuhneman over ownership of the name ruled in her favor, ending that version of the band. 9. Till Tuesday. Who hasn't heard Voices Carry? But this new wave group led by Amy Mann had more to offer. So why did they fade so quickly? The new wave tinged alt-rock project of songwriting extraordinaire Amy Mann. Gone before you knew they were even here, Till Tuesday's claim to fame, other than its masterful frontwoman, was the 1985 top 10 hit Voices Carry, which couldn't be avoided on radio stations or MTV if you tried. Then, silence. Till Tuesday were an excellent and intelligent 1980s new wave rock quartet from Boston, Massachusetts. The group first got together in 1982. The band members were Amy Mann, vocals and bass, Robert Holmes, vocals guitar, Joey Pesh, keyboards, and Michael Hausman, drums. Their music was distinguished by Mann's beautiful vocals, exceptionally literate lyrics, thoughtful and mature subject matter, and rich, lovely melodies. Although their third and final album, Everything's Different Now, received positive notices from music critics in 1988, it nonetheless was a complete commercial flop. Till Tuesday broke up in 1988. Amy Mann has since gone on to have a hugely successful solo career while Michael Hausman serves as Mann's manager. 8. EU. This go-go band had everyone dancing to Da Butt in the late 80s, but what happened after their moment in the spotlight? Short for Experience Unlimited, this highly influential DC go-go band took its percussive approach and funky licks to the masses with 80s hits like EU Freeze and Da Butt, the group's biggest hit, which was featured in Spike Lee's 1988 film School Days. EU experienced a resurgence in the mid to late 1990s by partnering with the jazz, gospel, pop, and gospel session singer Maisha Rashad while performing under the name Maisha and the Hip Huggers featuring EU. Maisha and the Hip Huggers have headlined events and concert venues such as BB King's Blues Club and Grill, Dar Construction Hall, Black Family Reunion, and DC's Stone Soul Picnic and Unifest. 7. JJ Fad.
Getting left behind. I know the time. It's time for fun. It's time, my son. Waste for no one. So get on the phone.
Before there was mainstream girl power in hip-hop, JJ Fad paved the way with their hit Supersonic. But what caused their rapid fade? This rap trio rose to popularity as quickly as they fell. The ladies of JJ Fad, MCJB, Baby D, and Sassy C saw their debut record, the Dr. Dre produced Supersonic, go gold. Its eponymous single went certified gold too, and it was nominated for a Grammy. But after an underwhelming sophomore release, JJ Fad became, well, another 80s fad. JJ Fad is an American female rap group from Rialto, California. The name was an acronym of the original group members' given names: Juana, Juanita, Fatima, Anna, and Dana. But when the lineup changed, the tradition developed that it stood for Just Jammin', Fresh and Deaf. The group was backed by DJ Train, Clarence Lars. Due to management and financial disagreements, Cash, Shaheed, and Lee quit the group, leaving JJ Fad as a duo. The remaining original members, Burns and Burks, were joined by Michelle Franklin, Sassy C, and DJ Train, and together they re-recorded and re-released Supersonic in 1988, this time as the A-side. It sold 400,000 copies independently before Eazy-E and Jerry Heller secured the group a major label recording contract with Atco Records. With Eazy and Heller enjoying success with NWA, it was 3 years before JJ Fad returned with a follow-up album. Not Just a Fad was released in 1991, produced by Arabian Prince, Yella, and overseen by Eazy, but failed to make an impact. The group disbanded shortly afterward. DJ Train died in 1994 of smoke inhalation. 6. Levert. With R&B in their blood, Gerald and Sean Levert brought us timeless hits. But how did this group fade away after such early success? As the son of the founder of the OJs, vocalist Gerald Levert was born with R&B music in his blood. With that being the case, he did the only logical thing possible: start a band with his brother and make hit records, including 5 #1 singles. The band's success continued with their 1988 follow-up album Just Coolin', which was nominated for Best R&B Urban Contemporary Album for the 1989 Soul Train Music Awards. Both The Big Throwdown and Just Coolin' received gold certification. Beginning in the 1990s, Gerald began dividing his time between Levert and his solo career, but the band went on to release 3 more albums, and Rhino Records released a greatest hits album in 2001. Gerald Levert died of a heart attack in November 2006. Sean Levert died in March 2008. 5. Club Nuvo. When your debut album goes gold and wins a Grammy, expectations are high. So why did Club Nuvo fade out so fast after their huge hit, Lean On Me? In the ashes of his previous project, Timex Social Club, record producer Jay King formed this California R&B band, French for New Club, in 1986. Combining elements of funk and disco that translated to success on the Billboard charts, the band had a handful of hits, including Why You Treat Me So Bad and a cover of the Bill Withers classic Lean On Me. But after some lineup changes in the late 80s, Club Nuvo lost steam and broke up shortly thereafter. Club Nuvo was nominated for a Grammy for Best R&B Performance in 1987. The group's version of Lean On Me was its most celebrated hit, resulting in a Grammy nomination for Song of the Year, in addition to winning the Grammy for Best R&B Song that same year. Lean On Me was also nominated for 2 American Music Awards, nominated and won a BAMI Award, and it won 2 NARM Awards, National Association of Recording Merchandisers. The 2015 lineup consists of King, Watson, and Prater. In 2017, as part of Warner Music's divestment requirements as a result of its purchase of Parlophone, the group's Warner Brothers recordings were acquired by Tommy Boy Records, which worked 12-inch singles from its first album to clubs as a result of its emerging relationship with Warner and from being an expert in the format. 4. Animotion. You know them for Obsession, but what else did this LA synth-pop band bring to the table? Let's see why they couldn't keep the momentum going. These LA synth-poppers rode the wave of success on their biggest hit, 1984's Obsession. An anthem as bombastic as the decade in which it was released, the track climbed into the top 10 on the Billboard charts and brought instant fame to its creators. Animotion was founded by 4 members of Los Angeles-based band Red Zone and the lead singer of the Billy Bond Band. Both Red Zone and the Billy Bond Band would play at the popular music venue Madame Wong's and knew of each other. A manager who heard that Red Zone was considering breaking up suggested that Billy Bond Band vocalist Bill Wadhams look into working with them, and particularly their vocalist Astrid Plain. After Wadhams demonstrated some of his original material to the group, the two parties decided to form a new band with the name Animotion, suggested by Astrid to convey energy and motion. Actress, dancer, singer Cynthia Rhodes replaced Plain as female lead singer, and former solo artist Device member Paul Engemann replaced Wadhams as the male lead for Animotion's second self-titled album, informally known as Room to Move, due to the success of this song, to distinguish it from their first LP. Incidentally, Engemann's former band, Device, had also included Holly Knight, co-writer of Obsession. By the time of this third album's release, only Kirkpatrick and Smith remained officially in the band, along with Rhodes and Engemann, and a slew of session musicians contributed to the recording. The single Room to Move, a remake of a 1988 song by the group Climby Fisher, became a radio hit in April 1989 and the band's second top 10 hit in the US, aided by its inclusion in the movie My Stepmother is an Alien. However, the album itself did not crack the top 100 on the charts, and Animotion broke up afterward. 3. The Outfield. This British band had a strange journey, huge in the US but barely known in the UK. Their debut album went triple platinum, but where did the Outfield go from there? Named after America's pastime but formed in London, this English trio was a huge hit in the 80s. The Outfield's debut album, Play Deep, went triple platinum in 1989 on the momentum of its hit single, Your Love. After a long career that saw oscillating levels of success, the Outfield officially called it quits in 2014 after the death of lead guitarist John Spinks. They had an unusual experience for a British band in that they enjoyed commercial success in the United States, but never in their homeland. The band began recording in the mid-1980s and released their first album, Play Deep, in 1985 through Columbia Records. The album reached number 9 on the Billboard 200 list and then reached triple platinum in the United States. The band's single, Your Love, reached number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 as well as number 7 on the mainstream rock chart, and it became their signature song. The band continued to record and tour through the 1980s and then into the early 1990s. While subsequent albums Bangin' 1987 and Voices of Babylon 1989 saw some chart successes, the group's popularity waned. The group essentially disbanded in the 1990s. 2. General Public. When members from bands like the English Beat and the Specials come together, you expect something great. General Public delivered for a while, but what happened after their early success? The members of this new wave supergroup came from a who's who of big-time British bands of the era: the English Beat, the Specials, Dexy's Midnight Runners, and The Clash. General Public was formed in Birmingham in 1983 by vocalists Dave Wakeling and Ranking Roger of The Beat. They are best remembered for their hits Tenderness, 1984, and I'll Take You There, 1994. I'll Take You There was a top 40 hit in the US and Canada and a minor hit in the UK, number 73. The single Rainy Days met with limited success in the US but fared better in some international markets, notably Brazil. But after 2 successful studio albums and not being able to generate the kind of attention any of the members' more famous projects did, the band called it quits. Since 2004, Dave Wakeling has toured the US with a full backing band as the English Beat. They often perform General Public tracks as well. 1. Roxet.
It must have been love, but it's over now.
Sweden's biggest export after ABBA, Roxet ruled the airwaves with hit after hit in the late 80s. But what led to their decline and where are they now? Before landing on the Pretty Woman soundtrack in 1990, this Swedish pop duo had a string of hits in the 80s, including The Look and Listen to Your Heart, both of which reached number 1 in 1989. The group released music throughout the 90s and have sold more than 70 million records according to NPR. Roxet is a Swedish pop group formerly consisting of Marie Fredriksson, vocals and piano, and Per Gessle, vocals and guitar. They are Sweden's second best-selling music act after ABBA. In 2002, the duo took a break from recording and touring when Fredriksson was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Gessle went on to release solo albums and reunited with Gillian Tider before Roxet took to the stage together again for the first time in 8 years in 2009 during Gessle's European Party Crasher tour. In 2011, they released Charm School, their first studio album in 10 years, which was followed by Traveling in 2012. Their final studio album, Good Karma, was released in 2016. Marie Fredriksson died on December 9, 2019 at the age of 61 following a long battle with her brain tumor. Since 2021, Gessle has released music under the name PG Roxet. Their debut album, Pop Up Dynamo, was issued in 2022. On May 2, 2024, Per Gessle announced the reformation of Roxet with Lena Philipson on vocals. Thanks for joining us on this journey through 80s nostalgia. If you love this countdown, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Don't miss out on our other videos exploring music history. Check them out next!